Hi, I'm Travis Brown with the Eagle alongside Robert Cessna. We're here at Jordan-Hare Stadium where Texas A&M falls to Auburn 13-10. Cease, this was not necessarily a very enjoyable game to watch. What are your initial takeaways from what the Aggies put forth tonight?
I think what the people back home watching the game, it was just very painful because you felt like just A&M wasn't good enough to win that game. And I think that proved it. And it had to be frustrating because Auburn's not a great team. I give them credit. Both teams played hard. I always, you say Cessna gets old. They play hard, but I just felt A&M didn't have a chance to win. When I found out who wasn't playing, and as they dropped out, it was rather painful to watch when you know one team probably doesn't have a chance to win.
Yeah, of course, Devon Achane, A&M's leading rusher, had a boot on his left foot. He didn't play at all today. Donovan Green, A&M's fourth leading receiver, third if you don't count Anaya Smith, who's been out for the year. He was out because of injury. Moose Muhammad was a part of the first kickoff return, but then didn't come back out to play the rest of the game. When we asked Jabbo Fisher about it, if it was disciplinary or suspension, he just said he didn't play and it's an internal matter. So no real word there, but it's just an offense that couldn't move the ball. They couldn't establish the run with Le'Veon Moss or Amari Daniels in at running back, and they wide receivers that they did have available just weren't really running great routes. Couldn't get open when Connor Wegman had time. He didn't have anybody open.
Yeah, it was like, once again, painful to watch because I felt the offensive line didn't do that bad of a job. Wegman didn't do that bad a job. They only had one turnover, but there was just no weapons because we've seen it before. Wegman, when they, with a chain coming out of the backfield with Muhammad, with Stewart, you could have about 30 catches between those guys, which we saw against Ole Miss. But you take two of them away, and they guard Stewart all the time. And then Max Wright even got hurt. There was just nobody to score. And you can say, okay, they had 215 yards, 80 on the last drive. As soon as Ole Miss went up by, as soon as Auburn went up by 2 scores, you could tell they relaxed. The game was over. They knew, barring an act of God, something was happening. They were going to win the game, and they did. And A&M went right down and scored. Give them credit, but Auburn had won the game at that point.
Yeah, I think that Wegman did seem to get a little out of sync, out of rhythm there when he couldn't find those guys opens or he was getting hit and didn't have enough time. There was a stretch of 11 straight incompletions there that spanned between the second quarter and the third quarter. If you want to talk about bad offense, -2 yards of total offense in the third quarter.
I think it was actually 13 because that's what they said on TV, and I think that's right. He was 0 for 13 at one point. And it wasn't his fault because there's nobody to throw to. And like you said, you can't get in sync and you're sitting there watching. And, we haven't talking, people say, why are you guys always so negative? Defense, I thought, played well. Yeah, they gave up a lot of yards rushing, but yet they made plays. They had like 7, 8, tackles for loss. They had 3 turnovers. They had 12 third down stops. The defense, you should win in that deal.
See, I wasn't really that impressed with the defense because it looked like a high school football game out there, a bad high school football game when they only needed to make 3 passing attempts through most of the first half, and they were still up by 7 and had over 200 yards. You can get turnovers, and they did keep them in the ball game late, but they might not have even had to be in that position to need to be in the ball game had they not had been able to find some answer for a run game. And even McKinley Jackson said they knew they were going to run the ball a lot. They knew they were going to run the ball a lot. They knew that they were going to try to stretch the defense. They did that a lot, and they did it with ease through the first half. I probably wouldn't grade them as high, but you're going to grade them, and you can go really read some of those grades later. So A&M now has no chance of being bowl eligible. They don't get those extra practices that you get when you do go to a bowl. What do you make of this A&M team? First time to have 6 losses since 1972, consecutive losses. This is kind of one of those seasons for the history books, and you know the history book pretty well.
Here's the deal. We like to make comparisons, but this is a season like no other. Just the way it's gone when they were 6 start the season out, you could say, well, they were 6th last year. Yeah, but this was totally different. This was supposed to be the year. They had all this talent. Then they had all these injuries. They had these suspensions. And, I don't think the SEC is that good. I mean, they almost beat Alabama. They one play away from beating Alabama. It was there for the taking. This was the year if A&M showed up, they could have done something. Now, it's got to be frustrating. It is frustrating to everybody. I mean, we're not going to cover the college football playoff this year. We're going to see Massachusetts and LSU and go on to basketball. It's disappointing for everybody. No one more than Jimbo Fisher. He's got to answer to it. And so it's frustrating, and there'll be no answers until next year when things made in the off seasons, because everybody's got to live with this. You're going to see it negative. Nobody's happy. I mean, how can you be happy? This was just, in Olin Buchanan, I mean, whatever bad thing you want to say, he said like a root canal. Whatever's bad in your life, watching this football team at some time was like that, and it wasn't about their effort. Those guys played hard today, but the results wasn't there.
I know we're going to have to talk about this, and we're going to talk about it ad nauseum, but we'll close it with this, and that's the question that everybody wants to know. Is there, do you see from this performance and the season as a whole, but this is kind of a microcosm of the season, is this a program that needs an overhaul within the coaching staff, and then also maybe within the way that the offense is run or plays are called?
Something's got to change, whether it's attitude, whether it's 2 or 3 more players coming in, whether it's 2 or 3 coaches. I don't get paid enough. All everybody knows is that can't happen again. They've had, this year was just a total loss. I don't see anything good out of it except a few good trips, a few good meals or whatever. And, no marquee wins. They beat Arkansas and Miami, who've turned out to be just very average teams. It just is what it is. Like I said, just write it off and move on. But there's got to be some kind of changes. I don't know if they need to be small, they need to be big. It's just like, hey, Cessna, why don't you dress better or whatever? Okay, do I need to get a whole wardrobe? Do I need to get a suit? Or can I possibly just get one good tie?
There you go. I can't think of a better way to end this video. Be sure to check theeagle.com for our recap stories, columns from today, CSU's grades, press conference video from Jimbo Fisher and the players. And we'll be back next week to talk a little bit of UMass and where Texas A&M goes from here. Thanks, everybody.